Welcome to the Gridiron Round-Up with your host, Randy Silver. I'm Randy Silver TV, where we dive into the biggest sports stories in our favorite game, football daily. Biggest story today, dropped hours ago, Trey Lance traded to the Cowboys. The experiment with the 49ers is over. We're going to break into the full analysis for you, start from the very beginning of the story, when they drafted him, why they drafted him, and how we got to where we're at today. Originally, the Niners traded 3 first-round picks for the opportunity to move up in the draft, 2021 draft, to draft Trey Lance, and they're trading him to the Dallas Cowboys for a mid-round pick. That mid-round pick turns out to be a 4th-round pick. So they gave up 3 first-round picks, and they get back basically a 4th-round pick and a failed experiment. The Dolphins used those 3 first-round picks to get wide receiver Jalen Waddle, who's going to be probably eventually all-pro wide receiver. He's killing it with Miami. He's opposite of Tyreek Hill, who is already an all-pro wide receiver, Super Bowl winner with the Chiefs. They used the pick to trade for him. Waddle they got out of Alabama. They traded for linebacker Bradley Chubb, all-pro from Denver, and they drafted linebacker Channing Tindall, who's been a very good draft pick for them. Niners lost that. Overall, they paid Trey Lance a whopping $27 million. One more time. A whopping $27 million for less than 300 snaps and 4 starts with the 49ers. Pretty good payday to me. That's in the jackpot. Of course, Trey Lance wanted to be out there. He was dealt with a serious injury last season. We're going to dive into it. It was a career, potentially could be career ending, but he should be able to come back. That's why he's getting traded. But it was season ending with a broken ankle. Trey Lance, total of 8 games with 49ers. This is the fewest games played by a top 5 pick with the team he debuted with since the start of the common draft era in 1967. Wild. That's not a miss. Nothing will ever be considered a miss. So now, who's in the Dallas Cowboys locker room at QB position? Their franchise QB, Dak Prescott. Cooper Rush was their backup, and he's been playing amazing for them. When Dak was hurt last season, people talked about him potentially taking over as starter as a different team. And then they have Will Grier as well. So does Trey Lance slot in as a second QB? Is he the 3rd QB? Who knows? Maybe they'll get rid of Cooper Rush to go somewhere else. Robert Griffin III, former NFL QB, Heisman Trophy winner. The 49ers' decision to give up 3 first-round picks to move up and draft Trey Lance is the worst draft move of all time. The only reason Kyle Shanahan, their head coach, and John Lynch, their GM, aren't fired is the hit on the last pick of last year's draft in Brock Purdy, who was now the new starter. Now Trey has to be traded to the Cowboys for a 4th-round pick. Unbelievable ending. Trey Lance era is over in San Francisco. Also, the Niners have been really good, so they made a bad play. Say the Niners were a bad team and this happened, you would think that Shanahan and Lynch are out. Your new depth chart is Purdy, Darnold. It was Trey Lance, so now someone will come in and fill that spot. They announced earlier in the week that Sam Darnold was number 2, beat out Trey Lance, and that started the trade talks that Trey Lance would be out of San Francisco. Going into last year's training camp, so 2022 camp, Trey Lance was supposed to be number 1, Nate Sudfeld number 2, and they drafted Brock Purdy. They weren't really happy with where they're at, so Jimmy Garoppolo, their former QB for multiple years, was brought back in. Now, all that's left out of those 4 is Brock Purdy. Now, let's analyze who else the Niners could have picked. So we're going to show you the first round of the 2021 draft. The Niners moved up to the 3rd pick to get Trey Lance. They could not get Zach Wilson, who was on the Jets. He is now the backup to Aaron Rodgers, so you have to say that it's not working out well. Trevor Lawrence took the Jacksonville Jaguars to the playoffs last season. They won a game against the Chargers in the playoffs. First season looked terrible. New coach came in, Doug Peterson. Looks like it's going upward. Who was after Trey Lance? All-pro tight end Kyle Pitts. Looks like all-world talent. Jamar Chase. Enough said with him with the Bengals. Patrick Surtain, a great cornerback. And we know how much the Niners love playing defense. At 11, Justin Fields. Looks like he's trending up. He could have been an amazing player. Devontae Smith, wide receiver, will be a Pro Bowler. Michael Parsons at the linebacker position, killing it. He's now Trey Lance's teammate. Mac Jones made an all Pro Bowl. So there's a lot of players here that they could have picked at number 3 over Trey Lance. Trey Lance was a project. He had athletic ability. They were really going off of what he projected to be, not what he showed me. And unfortunately, he never got that chance to live to the hype in Niners red. Now he'll be backing up Prescott. Purdy's number one. If you look at the stats where they were last season for 2022 season ranks, not a comparison. Purdy's history: he was a QB at Iowa State, listed at 6'1", 220 pounds. He was drafted in the 7th round, number 262 overall by the San Francisco 49ers. Here are his stats for passing from his time at Iowa State for 4 years. His best statistical season was 2019. He did not do too shabby all 4 seasons. And coming in, the Niners knew they were going to get a very stable QB, but they definitely did not know that he probably would become number one over Trey Lance. When you look at his stats for the Niners, he came in because Jimmy G got hurt after he came in for Trey Lance, who got hurt. So he played the last 9 games of the season. 6 of those were regular season, 3 were playoffs. Passer rating 107, 13 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He controlled the offense well. He controlled the whole team well. They galvanized around him. The team really, really liked playing under Purdy. So coming into this season, it felt like he was the person who was going to win the job. The Niners season, so you can see how they were doing overall. Trey Lance played those first, I think it was 2 games, and he got hurt in the 3rd game, or he played the first game, got hurt in the 2nd game. Jimmy G came in. They were losing a bit, back on the roll. Then when Purdy came in, he did not lose a game until they lost in the conference championship game. He tore his UCL and his elbow in that game. That's the same injury that Shohei Ohtani has right now. It's a Tommy John surgery you need to get. So he got the surgery in the offseason, about a 6-month recovery. It wasn't as intensive surgery that he got as a Tommy John. They were able to do something a bit less intensive, so he was able to get back sooner. But he's coming back from that as a QB. We'll see how he does. He won the job as the number 1 QB for the 49ers. He's been playing well in this preseason coming back, so it looks like he's back to his normal self. Trey Lance, what were his stats? He got in 6 games in 2021 when Jimmy G was hurt, or it was a blowout. He got some reps. Going into 2022, he was the starter. He was supposed to get... They were trying to do what the Warriors did, where you build the future while playing for the present for a championship. They have a win-now team to win the Super Bowl. They wanted their QB to get reps and be the franchise QB, but also hope to win now. He only got 2 games, so it was 2 games, and broke his ankle in that 2nd game. So he never got a fair shake. And then, of course, rehabbed, got his surgery, and now is traded, so he never got a chance to play. You know, always a bummer to see injuries. It's the game of football. It happens. So if someone that comes in and takes your spot, you're not always guaranteed to come back and get your spot back. Lasting image of Trey Lance. They brought in Jimmy G. He was the QB of the Niners before he got traded to the Niners from New England. He was a QB for about 5 years. Then they drafted Trey Lance to be the future. They weren't going to re-sign Jimmy G, and then they had this song and dance. They re-signed him, and it was great that they actually re-signed him right at the end of summer camp, because then Trey Lance got hurt. He stepped in, and then when Jimmy got hurt in that game 13-ish, that's when Brock Purdy stepped in. Now the backup QB for the Niners is Sam Darnold. He's had his own QB carousel. He was picked 3rd overall by the Jets in 2018 out of USC. He did not perform the way they wanted, which is why they picked Wilson. They let him go. He's now went to Carolina. He did not perform well at Carolina like they hoped. So now he signed with the Niners. And now he's a backup. So someone who has failed with 2 teams beat out Trey Lance, who was supposed to be the franchise QB with the Niners, and was not able to perform. And that's why they traded him. So that's how we got to Trey Lance traded to the Cowboys. Comment your thoughts on the trade. Of course, subscribe here to the Gridiron Round-Up with Randy Silver on Randy Silver TV, so you can get notified when we drop new videos. We have American football, European football, hoops, MMA, vlog videos, and so much more for you. And guess what? The NFL season is back, so these will be dropping weekly on all the games to keep you up to date on all the big storylines. Enjoy, y'all. Randy, out.